Sometimes we yoga box each other. We use these things, and still there's something that's going on here that's not getting corrected. And Laurie was really frustrated with me, and she was kind of like, I don't trust you. And she said that to me. She said, I don't trust you. Welcome, Inner Circle members. Hello, everybody. How are you today? It is 10 a.m. right now in Arizona, as it is. Um, and I'm excited to talk to you today about what I've been working through and dealing with, and came across a huge aha. And that aha was that I am someone with an ADHD brain. Now, it's interesting that I say it that way, right? Like I don't have ADHD, because what I'm learning about it is that it's not a diagnosis. And so I'm interested in learning more about it, and I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about it, although you can't be diagnosed with or as someone who has an ADHD brain. It's not actually a dysfunction or something like that. And so I'm really curious to know, those of you who, like me, have suffered from having this type of a brain, what your life is like and what it's like to be you in your world, and also the struggles that you've had, the emotional depression that comes with it, the challenges of actually being able to stay on task and to also to complete tasks. One of my biggest problems in my life has been, number one, consistency, because I just bounce around from things that are shiny and I'm interested in and I really like, which gives me a lot of variation, and I need that. And also, see, and I just had a moment where I was like, oh, off track. So, also included with that is that I have a problem completing things, so getting things complete. And I think one of the valuable lessons that I'm learning right now, when it comes to this thing called ADHD, is that it's something that my brain developed over time, and there's quite a large population of us in the planet today, or on the planet today, in this world. The ADHD brain works differently from the neural pathways of a normal brain. Simply said, these are two different ways in which brains work. And there probably are a few others, but with an ADHD brain, the attention deficit is not an accurate description of what's going on. It's not an attention deficit. It's the inability to take your attention and move it over to something else that's important or has priority or something like that. And you know what? I don't do a very good job of actually explaining this. So, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a few minutes and have you watch a video that I watched that has helped me so much. This woman is amazing. She has something called How to ADHD. It's a YouTube channel, and I highly recommend, if you're someone that has ADHD and you've experienced this in your life, I would like you to share this video with everybody that you know, and really listen to what she's talking about. Listen to what she's saying, because it's really important for you to understand yourself. I am 55 years old, and I was 55 years old when I found out that I, in fact, have an ADHD brain. And it just unlocked so much for me. I have friends around me now that I've revealed this to the world who have said, wow, me too. And it explains so much. I thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy. I'm not convinced I'm not, but I thought I was, because of all the things that I experience with this type of a brain. And now I'm learning to use this brain in all new way. So let me put this video on. It's about 7 minutes. I think you'll enjoy it thoroughly. Give me just a moment. Here it comes.
Hello, brains, and probably people sent here by brains. I get it. It can be hard to understand ADHD and even harder to explain it to others. Most ADHD behaviors are things everyone struggles with once in a while. Losing your keys, spacing out during a conversation, forgetting to turn in an assignment. Sound familiar? Yeah, and when someone with ADHD does these things a lot, it's easy to assume that it means the same thing as if someone without ADHD does them. Once in a while is understandable, but if it happens a lot, they must not care, or not be trying hard enough, or not be very good at stuff. But before we judge their behavior or write them off as a bad whatever, it's important to remember behavior is affected by the brain, and ADHD brains develop and function much differently from average or neurotypical brains. Those differences can be valuable, which is why, as someone with ADHD, I wouldn't trade my brain for the world. But without the right support, they can also be incredibly impairing. The struggle is real. It's also invisible, which can make it very hard to see. So to help you understand what it's like inside the brain of your ADHD person, we reached out to our community of ADHD brains as well as the community at understood.org to ask how they explain it. For example, fun fact, despite the name, we don't actually have a deficit of attention. When we forget to change the laundry or have trouble focusing in class, it's because our brains have trouble regulating or effectively shifting our attention. So sometimes our brains jump from one thing to the next, and other times our brains actually zero in or hyperfocus on one thing, and it can be hard for us to pull ourselves away. As Eric Peterson puts it, neurotypical brains have a 1 through 10 dial they use to regulate their attention. With ADHD brains, our dials have 2 options, random and 15. And this applies to all aspects of our lives. The ability to regulate attention is part of something called the executive function system. It's kind of like our brain's self-management system, what allows us to plan, prioritize, and sustain effort toward a goal, say, making dinner, without getting sidetracked. It's what allows us to inhibit or not act on our impulses and ignore distractions so we can stay on task and switch when it's time to switch. In the ADHD brain, executive functions develop much more slowly than in neurotypical brains. And we have a deficit in the brain chemicals that help them function. So we usually know what to do and have the best intentions, but our executive function system isn't always developed or functioning well enough to effectively help us do it. And it's just as frustrating for us as it is for anyone else. Haley Melville explains it like this. Your brain is like a secretary, and you're the CEO in a meeting, doing a task. In a neurotypical brain, their secretary greets guests, potential distractions, lets them know that the CEO is in a meeting, and either encourages them to make an appointment or shows them the door. My secretary either lets everyone into the meeting or lets no one in, even if it's something important. Another executive function is working memory. That's our ability to temporarily hold information in our head so we can work with it. Like, look at a recipe and then remember the steps while we cook. It's our brain's version of RAM. Everyone has a limited capacity of working memory, but it's often more limited in those with ADHD, which is one reason we might blurt out an answer before we forget it, or ask you to repeat what you just said. Timothy Warnke says, "It's like my brain is a whiteboard, and I have to write down everything that's happening right away. But I write kind of big, so pretty soon I have to erase a bunch of stuff to make more room." By the way, that's also why we tend to have trouble following multi-step directions. It's also why Post-it notes are helpful. Another fun fact about ADHD, not everyone with ADHD is hyperactive, at least not on the outside. ADHD has 3 different presentations, and they can change over time. So even if someone doesn't look like they have ADHD, they still might. Even if they're not bouncing around the room, their brain might be. It's often referred to as internal restlessness, and it's exhausting. Diana DeVader Murray explains her mind like being on a hamster wheel you can't ever get off of. Deborah Cradaville says it's like a pinball machine with the ball constantly hitting and bouncing between all the bumpers. All this energy can be great when we can direct it well. It often shows up as creativity, generosity, curiosity. We tend to think outside the box, and we're 3 times more likely to start our own business. But for us to take advantage of our brain's strengths, it's important that we learn to manage our ADHD, which often means using a combination of medication and other strategies. ADHD expert Dr. Ned Hallowell explains it like this. Having ADHD is like having a race car engine for a brain. It's very powerful, and it can propel you to win races. There's just one problem. You have bicycle brakes. But with the help of a brake specialist, you learn to strengthen your brakes and control that powerful engine. Then your race car stops spinning out on turns and starts winning races. Because we do tend to crash a lot while we're building up those brakes, those of us with ADHD ADHD tend to get corrected or teased more often than our peers. And unfortunately, another aspect of ADHD can make that extra painful for us. Our brains don't just have trouble regulating our attention, they have trouble regulating our emotions too. Jennifer Peterson explains, when it comes to emotional dysregulation, it's like I have a really bad sunburn. Even a playful slap on the back hurts so bad. If you didn't know some of these things about ADHD, don't worry, I didn't either until a couple of years ago, and I actually have it. I thought I was just too sensitive, or a space cadet, or weird, because that's what I was always told, and I'm not alone. That's why ADHD Brains made this video, and why we hope you'll share it. When our ADHD symptoms are seen as personality defects, it can be hurtful, and worse, we believe it. It takes a huge toll on our self-esteem and can lead to other conditions like anxiety and depression. And honestly, it's really confusing. As Comiendo Biscocho puts it, it's like being the smartest, stupidest, most motivated, and laziest person in the room, all at the same time. But if we and others understand what our challenges are, we can accept them, find strategies to help us work through them, and more importantly, stop beating ourselves up about them so we can focus on more important things, like what we're good at. And we can stop writing off ourselves or others for being different and start appreciating what that difference can bring to the world. Thanks for watching. There's a lot more to learn if you're curious, so check out some of our other videos, links in the description, and head over to understood.org to experience what it's like to have ADHD and other conditions with their tool through your child's eyes. Remember though, ADHD looks different for everybody, and those with ADHD often have other conditions as well. So the best way to understand somebody's brain is to ask them about it. Thank you to our brain board and all our Patreon brains for supporting us through the process of making this video. Check out our daily vlogs on Patreon to see how we did it, and to our community and the community at understood.org for submitting such great metaphors. I've highlighted a few more that we loved in the pinned comment below. And thank you for taking the time to learn a little more about ADHD. Because you're making the world a better, shinier place for those whose brains work differently. If you want to shine that light a little further, please share this video. Bye, brains!
Video made such a huge difference for me. Actually, I found her on a TEDx talk, and I don't know if I really want to go into like how this all like happened or whatever, but maybe I will. To be completely transparent and authentic with you, for my life, for the longest time in my life, have been someone who I try to be consistent and reliable, and because of the way that my brain works, I have been flaky in the past, and it has cost me friendships. It has cost me so much, because one of the things that ADHD brains have a deficiency in is time, this thing called time. And it's actually called time blindness, where I often don't know what day it is. Like, no kidding. I know today's Saturday the 14th, but for this whole week, this is an example, for this whole week, I thought it was Saturday the 13th. And I'm the one that created the event in the Inner Circle Live. So that sounds funny, but it's exhausting, trying to keep track of all of the things that I have to get done in a day and in the week. And so when it comes to actually getting things done, I'm really good at getting it done really close to the deadline, because then I can hyper focus on it and I do it. Most brains are like, I'll do a little bit here, I'll do a little bit there, I'll do a little bit here, I'll do a little bit here. Boom, I hit my deadline, no problem. For me, I'm so distracted out here that by the time I get here and I know that there's pressure to get it done, boom, I get it done. So that's kind of how my brain works. And the other example is Laurie and I were having a really tough time, and it was a struggle for us. And one of the struggles was that I don't always keep my word. I keep my word sometimes, and then other times I don't. And it's the little things, right? Like, I say I'm going to do this and I get all excited and I'm impulsive and I really want to go and do that thing. I really do in the moment, but then I just forget it. and I lose it. And I lose, not only do I lose it, but I also lose um, the desire and intention that I had in the beginning when I first got excited about the thing. And so then if I don't strike when the iron's hot and I start that process, then most times I will forget that I even said that I would do it. And it just disappears from my memory. And then I'm like, oh crap. So if I don't write things down, remember in the video, she talked about, I don't know if you could read this. Maybe you can. Yeah. So these are my notes. These are the notes that I had to take while watching the video. And so, yeah, it's really frustrating. So Laurie and I were having a really tough time, and I didn't know what was going on with me. My memory is not great, and I felt like it was dropping off. And so I've been doing things to really work on getting my memory better. And and I can tell you about those at some other time, but to get back to how I came across whether or not I was um, someone with an ADHD brain, I really we got up against it, Laurie and I, and we know all the technologies. We use all the things. We do cough ups. We do clearings. We have clearing conversations. Sometimes we yoga box each other. We use these things, and still there's something that's going on here that's not getting corrected. And Laurie was really frustrated with me, and she was kind of like, and I don't trust you. And she said that to me. She said, I don't trust you. And I said, well, that hurt a lot. But she was honest about it. And she said, because you don't keep your word. And I was like, wow, why don't I keep my word? I had no idea why I don't keep my word, why I forget things, how I lose things, like my keys. um, and then also my impulsiveness. And my impulsiveness is not just impulsive about things that I like and I'm interested and I want to do. My impulsiveness is also sometimes with money. Like this camera that I'm using right now, it's a beautiful camera. Cost me about $600. I bought it well, I say I didn't buy it impulsively because I waited about a month looking up all the best cameras and that kind of thing. And then I bought it. But still, there was part of me was like, this is really, oh, I want this. And I got it. But that's also how my impulsivity works. So I was like, what the hell's going on with me? And I couldn't figure it out. And then one day, um, I was watching a video, and the next video got posted in YouTube for me. I guess the algorithm was like, oh, you're looking to find out what's going on with you. And maybe it knew. I don't know. I don't know how these things work. But the algorithm gave me this next video, and it was on ADHD, and it was this young woman who was doing a TED talk, and so I listened to the TED talk, and she mentioned that she had a YouTube channel, and then I ended up in the YouTube channel, and now I'm a big fan. And I'm not yet a Patreon member, but I'm a big fan of hers, and she's amazing. So here's the interesting thing: I know who she is by face, but I sometimes can't remember names. This is a problem. This is I would say, one of the main things that I deal with ADHD. I will know you for a very long time, faces, everything else, but I'll forget your name. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you've ever interacted with me and I just forgot your name. And it's because sometimes I have trouble with all the other stuff going on in my brain to remember your name. It's not that it's not important. It's that I don't have the bandwidth, right? The CPU cycles or whatever, or the RAM is what you called it, to pull that up and then to remember, because that long-term memory takes something for my brain to go and find it and bring it back. And so I apologize to you here. The other thing is that sometimes I'll tell you something, and or I'll get excited about something and be like, yeah, let's do this, and then it'll never come to fruition. I have a few people who I've interacted with like that, and the same thing is that over time, that impulsivity or that desire, that interest and excitement will go away, and something shinier will show up, and next thing I know, I'm doing that instead of doing this, and I said I would do this, but now I'm doing that. And I got to tell you, for most of my life, I have felt a pretty high level of insanity. Like I'm crazy. I am just crazy. Not easy to be someone that has a brain that works that way. And I'm learning now why this happens. Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is brilliant, and he talks about how the problems of the brain in an ADHD brain are are not necessarily, well, he talks about them in terms of the hormones and the peptides and things that are going on in the brain, the chemicals, and why that executive function doesn't connect with the action function, right? The executive function telling the brain what to do isn't actively connected to the part of the brain that can actually take action and do it. And so, and so one of the things that we're missing is dopamine. So in an ADHD brain, oftentimes the addictive part of the need for dopamine is higher than in a normal brain, meaning that an ADHD brain is more likely to have addictions than a normal brain. Like a normal brain person could have a couple of glasses of wine, whereas an ADHD brain would have a couple of glasses of wine and then finish the bottle. It's the chase for dopamine. It's like you're chasing that high for the dopamine. And I didn't know that. I was like, wow, maybe this explains some of the reasons why I drink or I'll over drink sometimes. Um, and there are ways to deal with that dopamine, that need for dopamine. And one of the ways is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals offer all kinds of different medications for it. Um, the medication, by the way, the dopamine causes the executive function to interact properly with that other function that causes you to take action. So, so the dopamine is needed, and it's needed like on a regular basis. And there's a couple of ways that we do it that maybe you aren't aware of. One of the things that I notice is that I drink a lot of coffee. Coffee is a stimulant. That stimulant provides dopamine. Another way is alcohol. Alcohol provides that dopamine hit and rush, but it requires consistent drinking or more drinking in order to get that to the levels that we need it. Um, and then by that time, you're inebriated, drunk, and you're killing brain cells. Another way is through, and one of the pharmaceutical ways is through uh, um, meth or um, speed. Adderall is one of the most used and is probably the most well-known types of pharmaceuticals that you can use. And it definitely does help focus when you need that focus, because then the dopamine is working. So if the reason for a lack of attentiveness or the inability to move from one attention to another so that you can complete your um, whatever your program is or your process is or whatever it is that you are doing, then dopamine is the necessary feature for, or the necessary thing that you need in order for your brain to work properly, or to work in a way that actually works for you. And so there are several different ways that I have learned using um, non-pharmaceutical ways to be able to deal with my ADHD brain and to manage all of it. It's pretty important. One of the ways is supplementation, obviously. Magnesium and zinc are really, really good for those who have anxiety, and that anxiety can cause the ADHD brain to function more high speed, but also like without any ability to steer or do anything else with it. Um, so that's one way. Another way is to increase your dopamine. So um, I have and also some nutrients. So one way is to drink coffee. Um, Coffee, black coffee. Forget the cream. Don't use any cream. You want to use black coffee. And if you're really wanting to have your brain function well, add some unsalted ghee, or and this ghee has to come from, grass-fed cows that are roaming and all that, or unsalted butter from grass-fed cows. So the all-natural stuff, that's what you want. And you put a little butter in it and mix it up. I use my magic bullet for that, and it works perfectly. Right now, I'm just drinking straight coffee. Another thing that I found that's absolutely amazing, and I got to tell you something, I want to figure out a way to become a distributor for this stuff, because it is absolutely what it calls itself. It's called Magic Mind. I've been taking this stuff. Let's see if you can get a good look at this. This is called Magic Mind. It is amazing. And the ingredients, right? These are the ingredients. Very low sugars, very low everything, but very high in all the necessary vitamins and minerals and all that stuff. And it's crazy how well this stuff works. I'll take a shot of this. I took a shot of this before I got onto this call, and I am already feeling like, wow, my brain is working so much better. I think because of the B12 and all the other things, the D3, vitamin D3, niacin, riboflavin, all the things. It's just it tastes pretty good. It's not, it doesn't taste like, ugh, I don't want to drink, but it tastes pretty good, and I like it. So that's another way. Um, Believe it or not, and this is so funny. You hear this all the time, right? Exercise is like the best thing to give yourself the dopamine and all the endorphins and everything else that you need, and it's weightlifting and that kind of thing. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Some heavy weights. It doesn't take long. You could do a 10-minute set of push-ups and set of dips, going down. Squats are great for that. Push-ups are great for that. Going into just plank and holding that for like a minute is awesome. All get your muscles working, and that is incredible for producing all the stuff that your brain needs as an ADHD brain person. It'll help you a lot. And then the last thing that I would say that has really helped me, and this has helped me the most, this has actually been the thing that has helped me the most, the most. And I've been doing this now for the last 7 days. A week ago, I finally got it constructed. And now I am so addicted. That's probably the wrong word, but I am seriously so addicted to cold plunge, to getting into a very, very cold 50-degree water. Not you don't need it to be lower than 50 degrees. Between 50 and 55 degrees, it's perfect. You don't need to go anything lower than that. Honestly, getting into a cold plunge every single morning, every morning. And sometimes you can do it twice a day if you want, if you really want to get your dopamine levels up and you want to be able to have your brain function really well. I'm telling you, start your day with a cold plunge. Now, according to Gary Brecka, and I think Andrew Huberman. I don't know if you know who these people are, but Gary Brecka is one of the guys that talks about cold plunge and some other things. Really, I like him, and he also talks about how your DNA and your body. He's really good about that. And then one of the things that he says, and I think Andrew Huberman, I don't know if you do know who he is, but look him up, hubermanlabs.com. Look him up. He also talks about and is in agreement with cold plunge, how the benefits of cold plunge. Go on YouTube. You can. I'll put links in the description below. But if you go on YouTube, you're going to find these great videos on how cold plunge can help with ADHD and other things. But cold plunge has been something that has really changed not only my brain, but also my physiology is starting to change too. It's 7 days. So one of the things that I noticed right away was I can get started earlier in the morning working and have focus and be able to work throughout the entire day. Like it's that good. It's not a short lasting benefit. It lasts the entire day, actually, even until the evening. And then in the evening, I might have a magic mind or a sip of coffee or something just to keep me going. But I find that I don't crash as much as I used to around 2 p.m., 2:30, 3 p.m., 2 to 3 p.m., where I'm going to need a nap. Because before I started doing cold plunges every single day, I would need a nap around that time, usually because I was coming off the coffee. And I also noticed that I don't drink that much coffee anymore. Um, and I think it's because of the cold plunge. So getting back to this, the last thing I want to say, and this is a combo, like you would stack this on top of your cold plunge, right? You want to put this on top of your cold plunge. A lot of people think that if you work out first really hard and then get in the cold plunge, that not only will help you build muscle, rebuild muscle, etc. Okay. And that's true. It can and will, because what's happening when you're in the cold is your body is releasing all of these proteins, and they're stressor proteins. So your body is going into a mode of survival, and so these proteins get released into your body, and they're used everywhere. Really, really amazing. Well, what Andrew Huberman and Gary Brecka say is do the cold plunge first, let that be your standard, and then work out on top of that. So after you get out of the cold plunge, give yourself about 5 or 10 minutes, okay, and let yourself air dry. It's cold, but you're not cold because you're coming into a warmer environment after you get out of that 50-degree water. Get into that and allow yourself to dry off, maybe in the sunshine. I like doing that. Oh, it feels so good. And then after that, go do your 10 minutes, push ups, squats. If you have weights, lift weights, do them all. And I got to tell you, the benefit, according to Gary Brecka, is that all those proteins that have been released into your body, okay, are now available for you to use while you work out. You won't have as much inflammation after working out, and those proteins will then get into your muscles to help them instantly start to rebuild. As you tear them, they'll begin to rebuild quicker. You'll get stronger. You'll have you'll gain muscle mass. So all of these things that I'm talking about have nothing to do with pharmaceuticals, and I'm starting to see that I can actually manage my own ADHD brain. It gives me hope. So remember when I said Laurie and I were having difficulty, and it was real. It was real. It had a potential for changing our relationship. Yeah, and changing it in not good ways, where maybe this is not the relationship she wanted, and definitely not the relationship I wanted, and I didn't want to be that person for her. And so it was serious enough that I had to look and go, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And where is this coming from? And once I got to see that, oh my gosh, my brain works like this, and I didn't know that. And now that I know that, I can actually do something about it. And guess what? You just got an earful of all the things that I'm doing now. And this has been the last month. I've been doing cold plunges longer than 7 days. I was buying like 8 bags of ice and throwing it into my. By the way, that's expensive, like $10 every time I do a cold plunge. So I went and bought a freezer, and I'll show you a picture of that later. But I went and bought a freezer. I outfitted it. I went online and I figured out, what do I need to do? How do I need to set this up? I got it all set up. It's got ozone pumping into it. The water's being filtered. Like, it's like set up. Okay. And that's what an ADHD brain can do. It's pretty wild. And I did it, and now I have something that I can walk out there at any point in the day, any day of the week. It's set up. All I got to do is open it up, turn off the power, open it up, get in it for 3 minutes. It's it, 3 minutes. And then I come out of it and I'm like, oh, wow, I feel amazing. So I'm promoting all of these things and saying all of these things to you because I know, I am clear that there are some of you who are in relationships right now who are experiencing the same things I've been experiencing my whole life and didn't know where it was coming from or why it was happening. And you can see your brilliance. You can see how empowered you are. And you can see how your brain does all these things that are amazing. And if you're really interested in something, oh my gosh, forget it. You're like, you're in, you got this, you do it. And then there are times where your brain doesn't work for you. Your brain is not, it's like you get shut down. And the depression that comes with that, the personal shame that happens when you're not living the way you know you want to live and your partner sees you as someone who is untrustworthy and your partner sees you as someone who, you know, won't keep their word, and now you've been labeled as someone no integrity or whatever label gets put on you, you're just flaky or whatever. It's like, and sometimes you're not and sometimes you are, but the sometimes you're not don't get looked at as sometimes you're not. You're not flaky. Sometimes you're very accountable or count onable. Is that a word? Count onable. You get what I'm saying. Sometimes you are count onable and other times you're just flaky. And my heart goes out to you. And my heart goes out to those of you who live with that person because you can see their brilliance. You can see how amazing they are. And then other times you're at the effect of their ADHD brain not working so well and you don't know why. And you're just like, man, that's just a personality defect. It's a character defect. Unfortunately, it's actually a feature of someone with an ADHD brain. Why do I keep saying it's an ADHD brain? Have you figured that out yet? It's pretty simple. An ADHD brain is a better descriptive of what's going on in that human being. It's not that they have ADHD. It's not like a diagnosis that you could say to someone, hey, you have ADHD. I don't think so. I don't have ADHD. It's not something that I, it's not like cancer. You know what I mean? It's not something like that. It's like, I don't have that. What I have is a brain that works differently from others. And we call that an ADHD brain now. So I really want to make sure that as I come down from this and I'm about to close out, I wish we had more people. I want to say this up front and out loud. I wish we had more people. I wish we had people on this call. I'm doing this solo. This was set up so that people in the inner circle could have this conversation and maybe we could have talked back and forth and find out how's it going. How's it going not only in life, but how does it impact your relationship? And how do we help your person, your partner who you love, understand your brain a little better? I'm going to put the link to the video that I shared with you early on in the description. I'd like you to share that with your person. And maybe maybe they'll see you a little differently. And then also, I'm going to put the link that I used to determine, I've not been diagnosed. The problem with diagnoses, in my opinion, is that it almost always comes from it always comes from a doctor or someone in the medical profession who then wants to give you a pharmaceutical to deal with whatever that problem is. And because of that, I don't trust doctors. I just don't. I don't trust them to give me what I need, okay, for something like this, which is why I've gone so far outside the box. And that's what an ADHD brain does. Because I don't trust them, I realize that this is a business. It's an industry. It's the medical, industrial complex, if you want to call it that. So I don't trust them. And so that's why, like I said, I've decided to go my way. You go whatever way you want. If you want to go and get actually diagnosed with a doctor, with a, somebody who's got the capability to do that, um, do your thing. Here's what I did. I went to a website that's kind of like a WebMD, and I took a quiz that came back and said you are highly likely to have an ADHD brain, and that was enough for me. I recognized pretty quickly, yeah, this is what's going on for me. And so it's funny because some friends that I have, um, some of my dear friends, one dear friend especially, but another dear friend as well. When I told them, I said, "Oh, that's my ADHD. That's an ADHD brain thing," and they go, "Oh, God, I'm so tired of hearing that. I'm so blah 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 blah," and they have all these judgments around it. And I want to say to you, if you're listening to this and you know who you are, that's not helpful. You think you're going to make someone feel better, or someone feel like you're going to get them off of this thing. I don't have the identity that I'm an ADHD person. And I also recognize that my brain works differently than your brain. And because of that, the label that was given to that difference is ADHD. So when you say, "Oh, I'm so sick and tired of hearing all this," that's not what it is. Truth is, you may know a lot about it, but you may not be living with it. And so I would say, please be compassionate, because it doesn't help when you do that. It really doesn't. And if you want to know what's going on, maybe you ask the question instead of, you know, bringing in that level of, it's not a high level, but a level of judgment around what was just said because you got triggered and decided that ADHD is not real. That's bullshit. There are too many people on the planet that are experiencing this right now. And so what I want you to know is that you're not, probably likely not, an ADHD brain. And so it's impossible for you to know what it's like. It's kind of like it's impossible for me to know what it's like to be a woman. And it's impossible for me to be any other skin color than I am. So if you don't know, you don't know. You don't know that you don't know. So, treat the person, me, other people in your life, with a little bit of compassion. You may not be empathetic, but you could certainly be compassionate.
So recently, you've probably heard us talking about our favorite new product. And so we wanted to show it to you. So I'm holding it up. This is Go Love CBD. And we can say that it's a lubricant.
But it's called an intimate serum.
It's called an intimate serum. Isn't that sexy?
Yes.
An intimate serum, Michael. Can you pass the intimate serum?
So the great thing about Go Love CBD Intimate Serum is that it comes with 200 milligrams of CBD, and we love it. We started using this some months back, and as we age,
almost a year.
There are a number of things that happen to our bodies that
cause some pain.
Start to cause pain during sex. And one of those is the thinning of your vaginal walls. And on men as well, I mean, especially if you're circumcised. And this lubricant is so good at not only relieving the pain, but also correcting and protecting and healing any stretching or any damage that could have been done during the act of sex.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. That's why we're telling you about it.
Yeah.
So if you go to this website that you're looking at right now, golovecbd.com, you can get a 10% discount if you use the code
Sex and Happiness.
So go there and get yourself some Go Love CBD.
We love it. We think you will too.
The last thing I want to say to everyone in the inner circle is I'm so, so grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you're a part of our community, that you're a part of my life, and that you're part of Laurie's life. And that, one of the things that we have been working on is to really bring this kind of real content, authentic content to you. and to include you in the conversation. So, like I said, the next time we do this, I hope we have more participants, people coming in and sharing. I know Saturdays are probably not the best days to do this, but if that's the case, put a note in the comments below and say, hey, if you did it on a Thursday or if you did it on a Wednesday, that'd be better for me. And I'm happy to schedule the event for those days. Otherwise, if I don't hear anything from you, it's going to be on a Saturday. Now, coming up very soon, I want you to know about this. Coming up very soon, we're going to start doing monthly events. They're going to be live events right here on the Inner Circle. And sometimes they're going to be in the Extraordinary Lovers space. And other times it'll be in the sex and happiness space, and other times it'll be in the Inner Circle space. But there will be one every month, and you'll know because we'll be putting those in there. So I want you to know that we are working towards making this a huge, loving, beautiful, connected community. That's the point of the Inner Circle, always has been. And I am taking the reins of that to drive it forward, to see us all join together and really get our lives and to have an extraordinary experience of love and to experience a life of sex and happiness. It all ties together. I'm sure you know that already. So love to see you the next time around. Keep an eye out for the next event that pops up when I put it in there. Also, I want to give a lot of thanks and gratitude to my support staff. Ariel, you're amazing. Thank you so much for all your help. And also to Lance, who's our operations manager. He's amazing. He's really got our business moving forward. And then also to my beloved, my sweet, loving goddess of a wife, Laurie Handlers. And so we love you. And coming from Phoenix, Arizona, we'll see you on the next call. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll talk again soon.